are tinny. Taylor guitars don't sound good. Taylor guitars are sterile. You don't like Taylor guitars. You never talk about them in your videos. I have to talk about Taylor guitars, and let's talk about this one because nothing. This is basically the absolute top of the line. This is an incredible Taylor 814. This is a limited edition because it has Sassafras back and side. So this is a very quick video on what I love about Taylors, why I think I can understand why people don't like some Taylor guitars, and can you paint with a broad brush and just say that Taylors are not good guitars, they're factory, they're blah, blah, blah. I'm Jeremy, this is Guitar Hunter, thanks for watching, and let's get into this. So, let's talk about this guitar, and then we'll talk about what I like about Taylor guitars, and why yeah. Okay, number one, this guitar came from a friend of mine. It is for sale, it is on consignment, it will be for sale in the description of this video, and then after that, this guitar sells, this guitar will live on, but there will be a link in the description down below for this. This came to me from my friend Jeremy, also a guitar hunter, and he's had a couple amazing guitars. He also had that Martin D42 custom shop that I wish I could have kept, with the amazing figured East Indian rosewood back and sides. But he reached out and asked me, hey, would you consider, you rarely talk about Taylor guitars, so would you want to talk about Taylor guitars? Would you want to sell this guitar on consignment? Let me know. And so he shipped this to me. And man, it is an absolute stunner. So this is an 814. Now it lives almost at the tippy top of the Taylor ecosystem. There's 9 or so official series, and then there's a couple other models based off of that. But generally speaking, the lower the number, the more affordable and also the more value-driven those guitar brands are going to be. And then as you get into 4, 5, 6, you start getting into the more expensive, and then 7, 8, and 9, you start getting into real expensive. And I don't know if there's still a 10 series. There's also these just limited kind of custom shop. They don't really call them custom shop, but there are some amazing high-end Taylors. So then as you look at the number of an 814, you see that the 8 is the series, then the 14 is the body size. And so that you can usually pick apart. 10 means dreadnought. There's an 11. There's some others that don't. There are new additions to this, but just in my layman's understanding and following of their brand over the last 20 years or so. 10 is dreadnought. 12 is a small, like a 00. Maybe. Oh, I never thought about that. Maybe that means 00. The 2 means double. But the 12 is a smaller size, kind of concert size guitar. Then you get to the 14, which is probably the most desirable. And to me, it seems probably the most common. It's their Grand Performance, Grand Auditorium. Is that what they call this body size? But the 14 series is like a Martin 000 size. Then you get to a 15 that is a bit of a jumbo. Then you get to a 16 that is a proper jumbo. Then there's an 18 that's way big. Then there's a 22 that's actually smaller. And I guess that maybe means 22 frets. Usually those are Koa. Anyway, as you can see, one of the complaints people have with Taylor is that just to understand the numbers, it kind of breaks down. And I understand people have the same confusion with Martins, but I still think the Martin is a little more straightforward. An 18 is an 18, a 21 is a 21, a 28 a 35, a 42 a 41, a 45. They kind of play by their rules a little better. Now, the riff that Taylor does, even on top of that, is that this guitar is also a limited. So they do all of these things where usually an 814 would be East Indian rosewood back and sides and a Sitka spruce top. This one is a Sitka spruce top, but it's a limited edition, so that means that it's sassafras on the back and sides. Now, this is beautiful and super figured and interesting because not a ton of guitars are made with sassafras. In fact, Steve Showalter and Showalter Guitars is probably the only one that I've known that has done a sassafras. And I'm always interested. I'm always excited about guitars that are unusual tone woods. Love it. I am here for it. Now, let's come back to this guitar real quick. This guitar is in incredible shape. It's really cool quality. It has the locking tuners on the back of the headstock. It's a really tight grained piece of Sitka spruce on the top. Really great dark ebony bridge, but a more sappy fingerboard, and then cool inlays. These are not the standard inlays that would be on an 8 series. These are, I don't know what they call this. I'll see if I can find it. I want to take a moment and thank the sponsor of this video. This video is brought to you by Express VPN. One of the scariest things to me is that I send some money when I'm buying guitars around the world and around the country. I buy and sell guitars all of the time, and it is always scary to me connecting to a Wi-Fi system in a coffee shop to send money to someone to buy a guitar. It is always stressful, and it is stressful for me in the same way that if it was actual cash, I would freak out if I was handing cash to someone in a public place. In the same way, I trust ExpressVPN to protect my connection to the computer, my computer's connection to the bank, that bank's ability to send that money to the owner or to the seller that I am selling this guitar to. So, I use ExpressVPN to make sure the guitar hunts go safely and that those guitars come home with me. So if you want to check out ExpressVPN, there are links down in the description down below. It's a really good way to make sure that your information stays private and you get to keep working towards the goals that you have of living a good life that is not ruined by people stealing your identity and just eavesdropping on what you're doing. So check out the link in the description below. Now, back to the video. Now, this also has their pickup system, which is a polarizing thing in itself. Some people really like it. Some people really don't like it. I probably fall more on the I don't like it because I just see them have problems, and then there's not a ton you can do other than put in another one, where I would rather, I'm an LR Bags guy until I die, and so for me, LR Bags is the best option to get a guitar that is the best way to amplify the sound of your guitar, for it to sound like your guitar, just louder and out and about. So, what do I like about Taylor guitars? I love their philosophy. I think that Taylor guitars are the ultimate forward-thinking kind of guitar brand. They care about the world that their guitars are going to exist in moving forward, and they have limited allegiance to tradition. I'm thankful for that. Now, I love, that's not a traditional guitar, but I love traditional guitars. I love sunbursts and square shoulders and traditional guitars and slot headstocks, and I love traditional guitars, but what I really appreciate about Taylor is their philosophy that the best guitar is still out there. And so they have very few sacred cows within the organization. They will do, for example, they will do scarf joints on a $5,000 guitar. They will do certain things that other brands just wouldn't do, but their reasoning for doing it is sustainability and its reliability, and I mean, glue is stronger than wood, and so I'm okay with some of these things. There's also lots of innovation and tweaky things that happens internally in the guitar, but overall, I really do appreciate Taylor's philosophy that the best guitar is still out there compared to other guitar brands that will say, well, the best guitars in the history of the world were made in our factory in this time period before a certain war, and therefore those must be best, and we must just reissue that kind of guitar. And so on one side, it's Tesla. On the other side, it's reissuing a station wagon, and you're kind of stuck. People say that Taylors don't sound good, and when they say don't sound good, they say they're thin, they say they're harsh, they say that they're lifeless. those are words that I hear all the time, not necessarily my words. I do think that overall, Taylor guitars are not voiced to be particularly bassy, but they're voiced to be very clear. And so if that's what you need, if you need a kind of guitar that sits in a mix in a way that it works really well with vocals, works really well with rhythm, it's not going to be a bluegrass thing, it's not going to be a big jump out in front of a condenser, kind of loud guitar. So I don't find them to be shrill. I do find them to be lacking in bass, and that's fine. And it's also hard to paint with such a broad brush. Other accusations that people say about Taylors is that they don't hold their value secondhand, and I can absolutely attest to that. There are none of the major brands, when you look at like Gibson, Taylor, and Martin, when you look at the percentage that you're going to lose off of a new guitar, none of them come even close to losing as much as Taylors lose. That's the thing that has scared me off from owning many Taylors. I've only bought one Taylor new. I bought an AD-17 a couple years ago during COVID, and I got it from Sweetwater on a deal. But yeah, they don't hold their value very well, and I don't know why that is. I think that it's definitely wrong in some circumstances, but there are other ones that hold their value pretty well. I mean, the 314s, the 414s, those do pretty well. They still kind of stay around $1,500. More recently, they've dropped down. But yeah, the main accusations are that they're thin and they don't sound that great and the pickups break. And I mean, there are lots of strong opinions about Taylor guitars. But Taylor has brought more people into the fold playing guitars because so many people felt like only a Gibson's good enough. Well, I'm not good enough for a Gibson because they're $4,000. And so many people have felt like, well, I don't play bluegrass. I don't need a Martin. So I see the place that Taylor has done really well. And of my friends who have played Taylor guitars, most of them grew up kind of in the suburbs around a guitar center, and for them, a Taylor just made sense and worked really well for them. And so I've always, for me, Taylor is worship music and Taylors are Dave Matthews. Those are the two. Man, I totally get the accusation, the concerns, the stress about owning a Taylor should you own them. I've owned a bunch of Taylors. I totally see the place that they are. I think when you're buying guitars, you need to buy them for what they are and not for what they are not. I hope that makes sense. There's a double negative there on that last one. I think you need to buy a guitar for what it is, and what Taylor guitars are to me is they are ultimately playable. They are so comfortable and articulate. There is room to play all of the fingerstyle stuff that I want to play. They're very sweet. I think that they're better fingerstyle guitars than they are strumming guitars. All of them seem to thin out, and they don't sound as great when I'm really digging in. And so for me, that's a big thing. I want a guitar that I can play at all volumes. There seems to be less dynamic range with a lot of the Taylors. They don't hold their value in the way that other of the big brands do, but they are inspiring. They're really friendly to a lot of fingerstyle guitar playing. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but all in, I think that they're overall good. If you can buy them depreciated, that's an even better deal. So that's where I think for this one, we're gonna put this one up. Now this is a top of the line, beautiful Sassafras, and I should say it doesn't smell like root beer. I thought it would. No, there's no root beer. There is a sweetness about this. It smells like lacquer, and yeah. So of California-made guitars, this is probably in the top 3. I might cut that line out, but anyway, thanks for watching this video. I'm Jeremy. I'm Guitar Hunter. This is a Taylor 814 CE. With Sassafras back and sides. Check out the description down below and make sure you're subscribed. Good to see you. Go fill the world with music and friendship. You got a job to do. Go get to work.